Hey, big friendly hello. This is the last community call for the Phil Plus program taking place in 2024. Here's what's on the agenda. Just a couple of quick updates. The first, making sure that you're all aware of the new template that just got pushed for DataCap Refresh. We'll talk about why that's helpful and a couple of requests on how to fill it out. Second, we're going to go through the whole DataCap refresh process. I think 20 pathways are impacted right now that are waiting for final review. Just give you a chance. Check in, see if you have questions before you see that comment from Galen or the root key holder. New applications. I've got about 7 DMs since this last call. I wanted to bubble up some of those questions that are coming, and then also give anybody who's on the line a chance to talk about their pathway. If they're looking for feedback or input, this is the great chance for it. We also have 2 new discussions. One is 256. This is asking like, hey, this is what we see as the framework of the governance program. Do you have thoughts, feedbacks, or recommendation? And then also Will from FIDL put together like, hey, here's where I see the vision of where the program can go. Also a discussion that's live for you to leave input and feedback. And lastly, we had a pathway that was not renewed. Wanted to make sure that we made that very transparent and public for everybody on what was the process that went into that thought, what do we communicate with that pathway, and what should you see as next steps. As far as allocators on community discussions, those of you that filled out the form, thank you so much. I've got slides. There was about 8 requests that came through this morning and last night. I wasn't able to build you a slide. If you give me more time, I'll happily do it, but we'll have lots of time on the call to work through those. So lots of feedback as we go through. If you have any questions, drop them here in chat. Myself, Galen, will go through there and back you up on whatever you need as we hit it. All right. So with that, as a reminder, if you want anything on the agenda, please, if you post it within 48 hours, I'll build the slide. I'll follow up with you to make sure we hit the right points. That way I know like who's talking at what time and I can make sure to bake it into you. Otherwise, I'll just put a holder slide at the end. This is the last call of 2024. We'll see you all next year. Be reaching out with an issue, essentially asking, does this time zone work? Does this day work? And what should we look at? And the big thing that I want to identify is right now, this is 1 hour. It's usually around 20, 25 minutes of updates back and forth, and then 30 minutes of an opportunity for the support. If that model works, I might modify the invitation so everyone can see this. That way someone doesn't join late or someone knows they have a dedicated time to ask questions. So you'll see that feedback come through in an issue, and we'll set out the schedule for 2025. Mark your calendars because holidays are coming up. First, we're going to have the holiday coverage in the States. Then we get right into Lunar New Year in January, February. So I'll be blocking this time off. I wanted to stress that the foundation will be out of office. I'll check Slack maybe every day, 2 days. I don't want to commit to something too much. But what I want to say is if you have an issue, please don't DM me. The best way is to post an with Galen or myself in the Phil Plus or the Phil Plus Allocator channel. So if your pathway has an issue, if your multi-sig went down, whatever the issue could be, this way, if you send a DM, you'll see a lot longer reply. And once we get a pathway, like, cool, we'll go forward and set you up. So this is a heads up in the States, holiday coverage, 23rd, Jan 2nd. And last for updates, we saw 12 new clients served with 45 petabytes of data still being done by the 65 allocators are in program. So thanks for your hard work. Thanks for pushing that through. DataCap Refresh. This got posted in Slack last week, and there's now a template. The goal of this template is to collect some of the key information that we need to review right up the bat. One of the reasons for the slowdown in having data processed for this refresh is 2 parts. One is a back and forth. Allocator submits an application. Then the community or watchdog asks a question. Then the watchdog waits for that question, and the allocator gives it. On average, we were seeing that could take around 8, 9 days. Obviously, there were some outliers on that. And then it goes back for governance. So they have to look at it, clarify, see what they need. And then if there's an additional question, that whole process repeats. So here's where this template is ideally going to cut that down. It takes around 30 minutes to fill it out for the first time. It's not instant. But once you do that, that's the information that's needed to get this live. And if you look at that chart that we have, the goal is to collapse steps 1, 2, and 3 into one, so that once you've submitted that, it just gets looked at it by the watchdog and then it's right off for that final review. We're asking that all new requests use this template. And the reason why is that way we have a standard. Heaven forbid somebody applies and uses the template, somebody applies and doesn't use the template. One is selected, one isn't. We're just trying to eliminate any sense of unstandardization in the program. So we're asking that all allocator pathways please use this template requesting a refresh. Any questions on that or anything broke, please interrupt, put it in chat, fit it up. Rock. All right, if you're on this call and you're waiting for a refresh, I see Ant Alpha, Top Pool, and ZZ Fill. These came through the last day or so. You should see Watchdog hit shortly. So we've got these. Just wanted to give you a check-in. These are in the queue. There are 20 applications that are moving through the final. So these are either in the last stage of having like a governance comment, which will be why it was projected to be okay for a doubling, a match, and Galen will leave you feedback on where it stands. Caro, you might notice that your name is in blue. I was going to DM you today. If you're here, that would save a wonderful chance. The application that you submitted is just the old format. If you could please go back and submit with the template, we could fast track that with you today. Otherwise, I'm worried that it might cause delays, which make you miss this week, and then you'd have to wait until January after the holidays. Carol, if you got that, oh, you're wonderful. Carol, all the best. I'll stop talking. You rock. Thanks. And this is one of the slides that we've had on the radar for a while. There was an issue that was filed. This was back in August. And it was saying essentially right now the DataCap refresh is longer than 2 weeks. Based off the trajectory of distributing that DataCap on average, 2-3 weeks is when you would hit that 0 point from 75 allocation. So this has been a hot topic for us to kind of work and get that number down. So now that we have this template, we're optimistic that this is going to cut off a couple of days. And now that we have an additional signer on the multi-sig, also optimistic we got that. So going into January, I just want to keep everybody updated. This is a big goal. And then once this DataCap refresh gets to that place, well, we'll probably do something new. So hopefully we just keep this without it going down anymore. So again, the goal is to get this down to less than 2 weeks in 2025. Asking for feedback. This is just a soft plug. In the year in review, this was everybody who turned in an application for DataCap refresh and what they received in one place. Sometimes people gave feedback. I don't know where to go to see this. I don't know how other people are doing or where they're pulling it. So I made this discussion last week. Essentially, I went through and I pulled everybody who had a DataCap refresh. I linked it to their multi-sig number, to their application, to who they are now. Hopefully increase the transparency. And also I did this so when we get these new applicants and they ask me questions on, I want to see an allocator pathway that's doing this right. Now I can direct you to this link and you can see all of these different pathways that are operating. Check it out. It has all the information you need. All right. Hoping to have this as a discussion. Galen, if it's okay, can I hand this one over to you to introduce and I'll kind of hang back?
Yes, great. Let's see if everybody can hear me. So we had a BDX pathway that was not renewed for additional DataCap. This was issue number, I think we have it here, 246 was there. Is one of the issues. The specific governance issue was 235, where this conversation was taking place. There were just a couple things back and forth. They had gone through a couple different compliance reviews early on in the compliance review process. They had applied to be doing a different type than manual, but it became pretty clear from the tools they were using, the comms that they were providing to clients, as well as information that they gave us explicitly and directly, that they were in the meantime currently functioning as a manual allocator. And the problem with that is, the BDX team and platform had stated a very different goal in how they were going to run an allocator, what tooling they were going to be building. And, we saw a few teams do this where, they thought they were going to be using different tooling, and in the meantime, they needed to operate as manual. And, this is something we didn't really want to support in the first place. It changes kind of the way that we're able to do compliance. It changes sort of the principle of the issue. But with some of those teams, we kind of took them a little bit on faith if they were still making best efforts at building that tooling or developing towards that. But the main problem here is this pathway went through three different compliance reviews, and by that last one, we reached out to some other contacts in the ecosystem to see, what was going on. Is BDX still a project that is being developed? Is that platform still being built for big data exchange? And the information we got is no, that is not the case, that there are not current plans to continue developing it. So regardless of some of the other issues around, amount of retrieval or number of copies, the fundamental issue is, the organization that was used for the application, the claims made in the application, the sort of stated intent of what was being built did not match the reality. And as a result, we moved to remove that allocator pathway. Now, the person running that pathway, the team behind it, they could absolutely reapply in the future. They could reapply with, understanding that they are not a part of BDX or that team as just an ecosystem community member. We have a number of community ecosystem members that are individuals that aren't necessarily backed by a larger project or platform or set of tools. There's no problem with individuals being allocators. So they could reapply. They could reapply as manual, or if work on BDX continues and they have a prototype, they have a proof of concept, they have a minimum viable product or platform or tool that could be tested and used. That's absolutely what we want to see. The big data exchange program, as I understood it, was working on making sort of a bidding market, a data clearinghouse. This is something that as I was saying in the chat, a year ago, we were starting to get applications for allocators. So it has been a year of us kind of looking at these applications, working with different teams, understanding the different onboarding sort of tools. And that's the direction we really want this program to be going, is more tooling and less, of kind of the maintaining the manual status quo that seems very similar to, notaries, even all the way back to the very first round, where you had one, team or entity acting as a notary, getting clients, giving DataCap to those clients, and onboarding them. We had a pretty big evolution as we switched to the large data set model, and I think that this allocator change is an even bigger chance for evolution and program development. And I think the thing that we really want to see, like we've said, more of those requests for allocators, more people that are building tools. Show us the tools and platforms, show us the onboarding mechanisms, let us test it, and go from there. So, kind of long-winded, but this is not a, in my opinion, I don't think this is a divisive decision to remove this allocator pathway. They were not operating as they claimed from their application, and that's the long and short of it.
Thanks, Galen. I'm looking in chat to see if anybody from BDX or Amanda was on the call. Again, in the interest of transparency, in the interest of open and learning, if there's any questions on this, love to bring that out and discuss and see what we could do to help.
May I have start?
Just a few minutes, unless you were with this. IPFSUN, were you with this one? You were with this one, top tool. So if you wait a little bit, we'll get to you soon.
Okay. Hello, Kevin and Galen. I'm
Sorry, I muted you. I think that there's a language disconnect, so I will Google that translation. I need for you 10 minutes. 10 minutes now. All right,
okay.
we have 6 folks that have submitted new update questions on how to become a pathway. So I want to re-stress this on 2 parts. This was on the last call. If an application is applying to become an organizational pathway, they need to be ready to go. What we've been seeing in a lot of the applications is that they have a concept that they would like to do, but they haven't built it. So you'll see in red, pathways should be ready for operations. If you need to be an allocator to receive DataCap, that's not true. There are organizations that can give you testing DataCap. So reach out, list it in your application. So I've seen a few that say, hey, we need to be a pathway so we can have the data cap for testing. Not true. We can get you some test data cap. And the second is in these applications, if you are asking for it to be set, the expectation is that there is a README file that can be followed. That means that we could open it up, we could see how the automated pathway is going to operate. It's ready to be merged. It's like all set. You need a final tech review. Some of these applications, we open them up and it's a README file and it just says, we will do 20 fill for one token. It's very generic. It's not an application that has any substance to it. So again, those are kind of like given that feedback. I know a few of you are on the call, and we'll get a POC eventually that can give more technical feedback on like how that process works so that you can see how to update that. And then again, we look at these applications based off the value that you can bring to the network. So we talked about BDX, great organization. The reason it why is it refreshed is because the value that they were bringing was lower and lower, unretrievable, not identifying the SPs. So we have this rubric that you can see that can kind of weigh this on. It's not about a score though. We have lots of manual allocators as we've talked about it. And so anybody new, we're looking at like, what would this be that's so much better than we currently have that we were not just onboarding endless pathways that either do the same thing or do the same thing less than we currently have. So everything should be an improvement if we're bringing on something new to the process. And we're going to talk about that on the last one as we go through. All right, this one we're looking for input. You will see that there is discussion 256. It's live in the governance repo. And what this issue is looking to do is at a very high level, have a baseline that we could build off for like, what does the governance look like? So when Galen leaves feedback in the DataCap Refresh, when you hear some of these governance calls talk about why are we not accepting these applications and what do we want to see in it, I'd like to give you a centralized place where you can go and see where all these choices come from. And this is the start of that. So if you look at this issue, it breaks it down to like, what are the guidelines for new applications? If you look in more detail, it will talk about the refresh. And what I'm going to do from this is collect feedback from you. Is there anything that should be added or modified? And then from there, start to define these into more concrete. So I'll push those out so you can say exactly these are the confines to try to make it easier for you. But again, this is an open discussion, looking for feedback on this or whatever you may have.
Okay. I'm introduced the fourth round of topic.
At PFS, I'm going to miss you again. You're still already my friend. You keep jumping. I'll get you. I promise I'll get you. I won't hang up without you. All right. So IPFS, before we get into top pool, this is the last thing I want to show. It's that I've had 6 requests on this call to have a tech review of like your code. So the foundation governance, we're going to find a POC that can serve to be that line. I'm not it. I can't look at your code and tell you if it's good, if it's bad, what goes into it. So I know that we have like some questions about like, how does the governance process work on that? But in the meantime, we'll find somebody that can be like, hey, this is not live, or look at this example, and we'll get back to you with a README on what you want to see. Galen, I see your hand. Floor is yours.
Yeah, jumping in and adding to this, it says on here, like you should have a README. If you are proposing a pathway, add some additional documentation. Link us to a README file, put together a explainer video. Make it short and concise, but make it clear. If we can't look at it, read it, review it, and have it make sense, then it's unlikely that it's a pathway or set of code that's ready to be live. So give us more information, not just a hand wave explainer in kind of a description. We need to be able to like see the README file for how clients would use it, see the code, see links to a live testable flow, something like that. So we need more information. But with that, we are also looking for people to help us do that code review or that technical review. But if it's just a written description that says, we're going to have smart contracts, but you don't actually have any smart contracts yet, then there's going to be delays and pushback. So give us give us all the technical information, and then we're looking for people to help us review that technical information. So.
And that leads to a few. So the ones that we're going to see now come from this issue. So reminder, every time there's a governance call, I'll make this issue. We solicit feedback. So if I get it within 2 or 3 days before, I'll make you a slide. Some of these that come in, like an hour ago, 4 hours ago, I can't put on the list, but we could go through them one at a time. So Starry, they had requested just kind of like taking a look at what this is. Starry, were you on the line right now? Take that as a no. Well, for the recorded, Starry, just as a heads up, when I checked this website, Phil Starry, I logged in, I made an account on here. I'm waiting for next steps. If you want to email me back, essentially let me see what that looks like from a user perspective. And then those 2 questions that I posted here, if you want to answer those, that'd be really helpful. But Starry, I ran a test. I put up a user account. Let me know how that went. We could talk about it for you. And then Laugh Storage, if you're on the call, let me know.
Kevin, may I have a talk?
No, not yet, my friend. I'll get to you soon. Laugh Storage, were you on the call? All right. So Laugh Storage, you had asked in the public Slack if we could take a look at this. So you have a market-based client staking application. So you need feedback and testing. I'm going to find something that can come back and give you that testing feedback. When I looked at the code, I didn't see a lot of like how we'll operate. What's the website? How does that website tie in? How will I see the market that funds are put into it? But I don't read code in a way that I can actually look at it and give you feedback. So once I get a POC that's comfortable to look at that code and give you that input, I'll make sure that you get that feedback. So I left you that in the Slack. I left you that in that comment. Thanks for posting that. I'll get that for you as we go forward. All right. So these were the ones that I got in the last 24 hours. And then I think IPFS Yoon, this is that moment you were waiting for. So I'll pull up whatever you want to talk about. We could dive into it here. So IPFS Yoon, floor is yours.
Okay.
Yes, hi, Kevin. Hi, Galen. I'm Caddy from IPFS, and our GitHub application number is 158. So we joined the Filecoin ecosystem in 2021. And in 2023, we got to know about File Plus. Then we made scripts to automate the downloading and the processing data, etc. So in 2024, this year, we were lucky. We submit application to 7 allocators, and about 5 of them accepted us. And now we would like to become an allocator to help as many people as possible. And we are developing an automation platform and complete several features, such as we completed the backend framework, and such as login authentication and other basic functionalities. We also completed the API of the online application and the Q&A section with a reference to the LDN application form. We also completed the API development of modifying the numbers of SP and also the SP location auto obtained by background query. So currently we are developing the following the 4 functions. Number 1 is GitHub login access, and number 2 is on-chain data access for DC allocation status. Number 3 is allocator offline signature data construction. And the last one is the front-end page development. So in the beginning, we use both system for data retrieval, and sooner we found that the both system had data delay, and now we decided to directly access the on-chain data. So it will be quite faster and efficient, but it would increase our workload to a great extent. It means it takes a bit more time. So our goal is to develop a platform that can manage the whole life cycle of the DC and monitoring the data changes So our user will be notified when any data status change, and then he or she could check the specific changes. For example, if there's a CID called ABC, for example, our user could check which SP encapsulated this data and the specific expiration time change, and also the success retrieval rate for each SP. So moreover, if it's about to expire, our user will have a reminder of the expiration. And our automation platform is a bridge between the users and the Filecoin network, so that users can easily access the Filecoin network and use the Filecoin network, and also make the Filecoin network much more popular. And now we are burning the midnight oil to develop the platform, and people are working hard in our group members, and it is expected to get it online in February next year or end of February. So we wonder if we could catch up with the allocator election or not. Thank you.
This is great. I appreciate you taking the time to come. You can see some of our notes going back and forth. While I have you, one of the things that I haven't seen in this, and maybe you could help point me to it, was when you're developing these four functions, the GitHub logon, the capture query for the LDN, the allocator offline signature, is that publicly available? Is that in a README file? Is that in a repo? Where could people go to look at this work? Or is that what's coming in February?
Yes. We will review release code. Yes.
I'm sorry, yes to it's available now, or yes, it's coming in February.
Coming in February. Coming in February, we will release the data, the code. Thank you. Not yet. Not yet.
Wonderful. I think you're on the right path where you're communicating, you're coming, you're getting a feel for it, you're really understanding it. To kind of come back on what's going to impact you, it's knowing that like we want to prove a pathway until it's all set. So the things that are coming in February, where we can verify the Git login, where we can see the UI that you have, where we could see how that will play out, super all set. I just want to be very clear with the expectations on timeline, that as this pathway gets created, we can't onboard it as a new pathway until you've made that creation. Do you have any questions on that, or do you want to dive into something that could be super helpful to get you ready for that?
So far, there's no questions. If there are future we have question, we will ask online or directly DM you. Thank you.
Galen, I see your hand. I'll mute you now.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So the compliance review that you're linking, the fourth review for top pool, this is the same team, but these are two different pathways. So you have your fourth review for top pool as a manual allocator, but then you also have this issue number 158, where you're applying for another pathway. Is that correct?
Yes, different team. Yes, we're applying for another one. Thank you.
Wait, different team or like same team, but two different pathways?
Different team.
Okay, what is the relationship to top pool? Why are we bringing this application up?
Yeah, you can say that we are kind of friends, help each other.
Okay, do you explain that in this issue number 158?
Sorry?
Where can we understand that relationship between IPFS Yoon, you guys who are applying for another pathway, and the relationship to top pool, who you're referring to, who's getting their fourth review? Where can we understand that relationship? Do you?
Yeah, okay. I will check with our team to find the right answer. I will check with our team internally. So how to what's the relationship? Give a clear clarification. Thank you.
Yes. So it sounds like you have applied, you are working on building these tools. You think that you'll have tooling ready in February. What we want to see for this application, as K-Ray has said, show us where we can go have people review the code, where can we test it, where, what code is available for someone on the governance team review, what code is public. So when something is ready for the public to review, that is when we'll be moving closer to awarding DataCap. And then if you have a relationship with an existing allocator, explain that somewhere. So if you have a partnership with Top Pool and you're having your clients use Top Pool, or that team and they're helping you test it, explain in this application what that relationship is, because that helps us understand who the ecosystem partners are. We have ecosystem partners that, like, one team builds multiple pathways, but we also have teams where one team builds one pathway, but they are advisors for another team. But we just need to understand what the relationship is between Top Pool and why, so we would like to hear from Top Pool as well, if they, can vouch for you or say, yes, we know this team, we've helped them, we're helping test it, that sort of thing. So give that information in these GitHub issues and it'll be helpful.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Thank you, Galen. Yes.
Really helpful. What you guys are doing is great. I'm going to call you out and give you props. You're coming to these calls and being very transparent and public and getting feedback. You are inputting that feedback into your application and answering the questions as we go forward. And it looks like you're working for us. So you got some great input from Galen. I left a comment on here, and that should be great as we go forward. Galen, I see your hand. Let's just hand it back.
Yeah, addressing something that came in the chat, but I can also pause if we're still on this. Okay, there was a question in the chat around gas fees right now and DDO. We've heard about this issue from some other allocator teams. We had a conversation just last week about this with some of the teams. It seems like there are some FIPs in progress to address the gas fees. It seems like there are some there's work being done to kind of change how that gas fee is being calculated. That stuff is outside of what the governance team is responsible for. That is network wide. That is not Filecoin Plus specific. It's above kind of the work that K-Ray and I do to manage those FIPs or any changes or calculations to gas fees. We also understand that when the gas fee prices change, that can change ROI and calculation. But it's the same as when the token price changes. This is something that's out of our control, but if you're building your business model at a certain token price and that changes, it's going to change the way your business model is structured. This is the reality of doing business in a ecosystem with kind of these fluctuating economics. We also know that there is sort of pros and cons to using DDO and kind of the available tooling. As it is right now, this is the same thing we have always said. The current retrieval tooling that we have that we're using at scale, that is built by the Meridian team, the Spark tool, that is the current best retrieval bot that we have that can run at scale across like all of these programs. They have been working to have better compatibility with DDO. We've been trying to partner with the people that are making the different DDO code changes to try and see what we can kind of require in direct data onboarding to help kind of use better retrieval. We know this is also a problem that teams are facing that want to do on-chain deal prices for enterprise data. But if they try and use DDO, there's not a way to record that on-chain deal price. In where I'm sitting in this Filecoin Plus program, our tooling is built a certain way. Our ecosystem cares about a certain set of metrics. If you are using data onboarding pathways that don't capture or record those metrics and don't work for those tools, it is going to be very difficult for us to assess program compliance. That's the long and short of it. If we can't test retrieval at scale, it's going to make running these compliance reports even more difficult. If we can't test, on-chain deal pricing at scale, it's going to make checking that you're compliant very difficult. So while we know that right now gas prices are high, some people are saying let's use DDO. If your compliance review is contingent on Spark retrieval and you suddenly have very poor retrievability, that's going to be a problem. So my advice is continue to use the pathway that you know is going to make your allocator hit your compliance benchmarks, specifically around retrieval testing. And we also have some teams that are building more retrieval testing. And if these are issues, then go work with those teams as well to help find solutions. So go push on the team, go push on the BIPs that are changing, they're discussing changing gas fee calculations, and go push on new proposals to change how DDO works, what the requirements are, what information is captured, so that we can still build highly accurate and scalable tools for all the different onboarding pathways. So I know that this is an issue that's come up. We would love to keep seeing high retrievability across the network. I think that it is a great change that we have had in the past few months to show more scale Filecoin network retrievability. I think that it helps draw a lot of new people into the ecosystem when they see that the Filecoin network is able to both store all of their data and be highly retrievable. I think that it is one of the things that has helped push us through some of these different cycles. So maybe not the most complete or helpful answer, but there are certain things that are outside of every individual participant's control. From where the governance team is sitting, we will continue to use the different Spark retrieval tooling. If your compliance scores require high retrievability and you suddenly don't have that, that's going to become a problem for you.
Hello, Galen and Kevin. I'm Joe. I'm very glad to introduce the fourth round of top pool. Our number is 255. We completed the fourth round of allocation according to the suggestions of the governance team. First, the round we supported 3 old clients, so the allocation speed is fast. We granted 4.5 PIB DC to total clients and 0.25 PIB to new clients. This is the first time that we have granted most of the DC to old clients, which is our improve. 2. We closed the clients who used VPN in the last round. The clients were attacked by hackers before. For the safety of SP, they used the VPN. In the last round, we only allocated 0.75 PIB of DC to the team. Now we have closed them. 3. The new clients applied to us. One is a new dataset website, and the other is the dataset that already exists on the Filecoin network. We approved the new dataset clients and rejected the existing dataset client. Next, we will continue to bring new data to Filecoin. 4. We require clients to provide accurate SP lists and copy information. We require clients to disclose the same SPS as actually cooperated. If they are new added SPS, they need to be disclosed in advance. 5. We required clients to improve the retrieval rate of Spark. The retrieval rate need to increase be 75%. We will urge clients to improve retrieval rate. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could boil this down, Galen, maybe this would be good for you, or I could end, but Top Pool, thank you for DMing me. And I think one of the reasons, to paraphrase that you're on the call, is you've been topped off 3 times. This is your 4th request. And on your 3rd time, you received 5 pips. So you're curious to improve and make sure you're doing the right thing so that this number can be 10 or 20 in the next. So I pulled up like the feedback from Galen on the 3rd round, taking a look at the data and this. Galen, would you like to walk through this, or what would be the most helpful?
I'll have to go review theirs, but at a glance, I know we're trying to get through the backlog, and hopefully we will be able to get to this one this week. It was opened, 4 days ago, and we have some that are more outstanding than that. So we appreciate the information. And it looks like at a glance, there's a lot of evidence here for us to look into, which is always really helpful. So we'll have to go. I'll have to go review it. I can't give a compliance review answer right now, but we appreciate the information that is provided.
Eric,
Eric,
I see your hand.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So regarding to Galen mentioned to the DDO mode, I was talked to Will and Patrick when I was in Thailand. So they are mentioned the network need to be upgraded, and also they need to submit the DDO CID to the database, then to make sure the Spark can retrieve all the CID from the DDO mode. So what I suggest is, can File Plus team to have a communication with those two people, Will and Patrick, to make sure the time.
I'm here.
And to okay, Will. Hi. So to make sure let all the SP knows who is using the DDO mode to seeding the data, but their retrieval ratio was quite low, and this can be equal to the SP and also to the allocators. Otherwise, the super low retrieval ratio will make the allocators or even the pathway to be the bad example, and they cannot go to refill the DataCap and the terms and go on and go on. So that will be more important about that.
I think this reflects on what Galen said before, that right now Spark is not working on DDO, but that is being actively worked on. I don't think anyone expects it will take a network upgrade, but there will be new versions of Curio and Boost that will be able to support Spark with DDO. So you'll need to be waiting for those to come out. I believe that's being actively worked on.
Sure, thank you. So is there any specific time about that for the upgrade?
That is a question for the Curio team.
Wow.
And maybe
Okay.
Spark
I
as
put
well.
it on a Slack.
Well,
okay.
An idea, Eric, something that I think would be really helpful, a thing that you have been really great at helping us with in the past. If you want to open an allocator governance issue where you can start to say, this is my allocator, we're using this, we would like to be seeing these changes, and get some other either allocators or SPs or clients to add their information or their weight to that issue, that we can then pass that to the Curio team, we can pass that to the Spark team, where we can say the Phil Plus community is seeing this set of issues, these people need support, they're trying to make this change. Because it's different when when I go talk to one person at Curio or one person at Meridian working on Spark. It's different when I can give them, okay, it's me representing the Phil Plus program, but also representing Eric from Bytebase, and we've got this paper trail that shows, that there's high demand. If you could open something and get people to say like, yes, this impacts me too. Yes, I would like to see these changes, and add a little bit of weight behind it. That doesn't mean that the Phil Plus team can make sure that it happens, but it gives us just a little bit more signal to those teams as to the kind of the groundswell of kind of interest in this issue. So it just helps us say that
my understanding is that this
me.
is already being treated as the top priority by Spark, and I believe it has also been prioritized by Curio. So I don't know if more pressure is going to change much at this point. I think this has already been prioritized.
The highest pressure makes the strongest diamonds.
That is. So who are the team members in the Curio, the team who need to be upgraded? Maybe I can find someone in the Slack channel.
Yeah, I think Slack's for the Curio channel is probably the right place to ask the team about what they're doing.
Will, what is
the
the
Slack
Slack Curio channel?
I believe it's Curio.
How to spell that? CURIO, right?
Can you drop that in
Yeah.
chat? Somebody.
Phil-Curio-dev. Or Phil-Curio-help or Phil-Curio-announcements.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
And again, like contacting them in Slack is helpful. But what I'm also saying is like, rather than just a flood of DMs or new Slack threads, if we had a place where we could say the Filecoin Plus community cares about this issue, and we could link to that, I think that could also be helpful. So, okay, we're almost at time. K-Ray, I think we made it through the slides in the agenda. Were there other outstanding agenda items or questions?
Yeah, we've got quite a few
community
to go. Did you need something? Otherwise, I'm just going to go back
Nope.
to the ones that came in here. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going through this list live. There's no slides created because these came through in the last day. So just wanted to kind of touch in on them. So this one came in last night. And what you're asking for on this one, Leon, is what's up with this application, just to kind of keep you updated. Last we talked that you had made this pathway. I said we need to have this pathway all set up. And then you have this new program, this Get Live, just so you're tracking. I've tried to create an account on that, and nothing happens when I do. So if there was a code review that you could share, what goes into that website, where it goes, most helpful. And once I get a POC that can look at that code, we'll come back and give you that as you go through it. What else? Top pool, we just took a look at yours. And then 231, I think I kept this on the slide as we went through. Yep, sorry. So I filled out your form as well. I've left you updates in this as far as like, hey, once I've done that, what does it look like? Looks like you've got a big replay on the difference between automation versus manual. So I'll take a look at that and respond to you. Again, just to come back from the automation versus manual, if the pathway can't be set up like it's described, like it's a market base or it's an automated, and it's still just a manual review, we will say thank you, help you, but it needs to be that you're discovering. We're not seeing value in onboarding these partials that will serve as a manual for X number of period of time. So I'll follow up with you and get you what you need with that. You have came through. Hey Mono, this came through this morning, and you're curious about Cinevault. Last we left off on Cinevault, you were going to be working with some of these partners and let us know what the retrieval rates would be like. So again, I'll leave this as the comment as we go through, but just to have this on the call, what we're looking for is if you were working with this provider, just for everyone's context, Cinevault is trying to apply to become a new pathway. They are going to then work with BitEngine Rita on onboarding this. So what we're seeing is if this is the best, this should be the best of the best that you're doing to come on board and join the program. This really isn't showing it. So we see great that there's no duplicate deals, but our mean Spark retrieval is still like in the 30s and 40s. So some of the feedback that I'd be leaving you is if you knew it was observation, if you knew you were walking through it, what could you do to get those numbers up? And can you do it again with the allocator? Because right now, this wouldn't be the tippiest top better than any other pathway that would warrant bringing Cinevault in. It's actually below some of the mean that we've seen. So I'll leave you that feedback. That's some of the reasons why, and see if we could help get you set up with another client, or excuse me, another pathway if you have clients that are asking for the data. And then this one, this is just a code review. So Stellar, you asked to have somebody take a look at this. Right now, I would say that what I don't see and what I'm going to write back is, where do I even go to kind of pull this up? So when I look at your bookkeeping repo, it kind of has the same thing, but I would imagine that for a pathway that's going to be doing this automated, I should see a website, I should see some tooling collecting software, and maybe that's what you're working for. But just as a heads up right now, if we don't see anything that we can evaluate, it's not ready for us. So once you have this pathway ready to go, MVP, you have that testing data, I can come back. So I'll leave you that comment that you just replied on. And then lastly, Zach 11, let's see what's going on here. So your pathway was similar. This is a manual pathway. So again, if we're looking at these manual pathways, same input that I gave, if our Spark retrieval is still in the 20s, that's far below what we're seeing with some really great allocator pathways that are doing this on a manual. So the bar is very high for you. There are 60 manual pathways that clients can choose from that respond same day, that have Spark retrieval in the 70s, and they're already set up. So the bar to get you onboarded as an allocator is incredibly high, because there's not a high need to have 66 or 76 or 86 pathways that are doing the same thing. So I'll follow up with you. I think one of the things we need to look at is, why are these Spark retrievals so low? And how do we get this to like 100%? And how are you working with the clients to communicate that as we look at it? So I'll leave you that feedback that's right here. We'll see what we can do to help you. Galen, that was rapid fire for the ones that came in the last day or so, and I'll build a slide and get back with those people. Cool. That's it for formal agenda. Galen, I'll pass it over to you if you have any closing thoughts or anything that you wanted to wrap with us.
Just we've got 2 minutes left on this call. It's gosh, the end of 2024. I feel that we have done a ton of work this year. I think that there have been a lot of issues that come up where, just like every iteration of this program, we are continuing to make these design changes and attempt to like build the best social trust layer for incentivizing useful data onboarding. That's what Filecoin Plus is all about. That's what these tools are about. We want to continue to try and understand how the subsidy mechanism can be most effective. We want to try and support teams that are building onboarding tools. We want to be getting, client data on Filecoin. That is the goal. So building these onboarding pathways, all the things we do around compliance is in service of attempting to make sure that the subsidy is going where it brings the most value to the whole ecosystem and network. So just appreciate everyone, on the call and in the community for continuing to try and make this program work well, continuing to try and keep it professional and solutions driven. We understand that we're operating with a lot of people's livelihoods and budgets, and this is the work. And so thanks everybody for coming to another fun call. Thanks K-Ray for always leading these calls with such positivity, having the agenda and everything ready to go. Keeps us on track. So thank you. Yes, and as Eric said, happy holidays, happy New Year. For those
Merry
that are
Christmas and Happy New Year.
it's Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. We'll see people in the new year, and then it'll be Lunar New Year before we know it. So thanks everybody.
Great. Bye bye. Thank you guys.